Watson,
How you doing?
good. Thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Let's get started. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so longtime Kansas City native, Theodis Watson, born and raised, longtime Chief fan and Kansas City Royals fan. But what I do, I call myself as a communities banker. So it means I do a lot of things. I am a lender by trade, but I also do product development for my regional bank. Where we create products and services to get access to capital to various size, small to medium-sized businesses. I do a lot of educating with various organizations, nonprofits, business association groups to talk about how businesses get access to capital, what resources are available, and how us banks and financial institutions can be better partners with the community.
Maybe it's kind of fun story that how you and I got introduced. So I'll tell a story. I was just new to Kansas City. I moved from Washington, D.C., lived in there for a little while, moved to Philadelphia, and then my brother lives in Shawnee, Kansas, so you know the story. But anyways, I got in here, and I wanted to network. I wanted to see who would be a person that I can call, not in time of need necessarily, but for advice, right? So I get to this networking event, and I forgot the registration.
Yeah.
And they decided to not let me in.
Correct.
But I was very upset, right? And I was like, there's just no way that I drove all the way out here and I'm just getting turned away, and I'm not going to meet someone here. And then I see a beautiful car parked and someone coming out and then putting a jacket on, a coat on. And I was like, I have to introduce myself to that person. And then I didn't even close my door, I remember. And I was like, hey, my name is Amanuel. What do you do? I thought I just introduced myself. And here we are, a year and a half later.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've become my mentor, which I appreciate. And through our mentorship is how I decided to get into business banking. You basically gave me an insider scoop of how to become an efficient business banker and a part of a community that is contributing to the success and growth of Kansas City. Did I put that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right point. And
what's your version of that?
No. Honestly, what I seen was a younger version of myself, right? Someone who is going to take control of their own destiny, right? And figure out how they can meet, connect, network. And that's what it's all about. So to be an effective banker, to be any successful individual, I think sometimes you just have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
And opening your mouth and connecting with someone who you may not know who or what they come from or what skill sets they have. But that day, literally walking out, I'm walking in and you like, hey, how you doing? Hey, my name is Amanuel and hey, I'm doing this thing and I can't get in. And I'm like, hey, here's my card. Let's connect. Let's touch base.
Yes.
And like you said, a year later, here we are. But that's one piece of advice. If anyone who's listening to this or watching this, take away from this is don't be afraid to walk up to somebody and say, hi, how you doing? My name is, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's how you're going to get to where you want to go. That's how entrepreneurs are that's who they are, right? They figure out ways to solve problems and meet who they need to meet to get inside the door, wherever door they need to get into. Yeah. Although it's cracked, you go, you find your way in through that door, right? And that story just is a great example of what we have to do, not only as entrepreneur-like individuals, bankers, but also just people of color, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable walking up to somebody we don't know and introducing ourselves, and that's okay, and be comfortable with that.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think that just that goes to show how important networking is.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really does, because
Absolutely.
being able to just simply introduce myself and get a mentor out of the whole situation. Not only that, you are well connected in the city as well. So through your events that you set up, and this is something that you and I will delve into in a moment, but through those events, I was able to meet other individuals that are successful that I can actually pick up the phone and call in case I need help. And what we do, what you and I do as local lenders here, is to help accentuate the growth of the city
Absolutely.
through the backbone of America, as they call it, correct?
Absolutely.
And one way to do that is through access to capital. And we find unique ways sometimes to give small businesses the leg up that they need to get to the next level. So I guess that would be a perfect segue to ask, how did you get involved in business banking?
Man, I have a long story. We'll probably need some cocktails for this one. But honestly, I've been in the banking industry for 22 plus years, and I've always worked on the credit card side in college, to being a personal banker or a teller straight out of college, and then becoming a branch manager, and then figuring out that, hey, I wanted to do more. And what came about was community lending, small business banking lending, and that's how I originally got into that. But how I got into that is truly creating a business plan. What things do I do well in? What are some things that I'm not very good in? What do I want to know that I don't know? And wrote out my own job description, and it actually came out to being community lending, underwriting, and learning more about the small business development side. And so I was able to pitch that to various people. I'm part of an organization called Urban Financial Services, which we'll talk about that. But there was someone internally who knew someone who was creating this position that was right in line with this job description that I created. And it so happened God put me in position, and that's how I was able to get into small business lending. But one of the reasons that got me into that, and once I got into that, is identifying a problem and trying to find a solution for it. And so one of the problems that I discovered was, we talk about access to capital and getting access to capital to small businesses. But one of the things that I've noticed specifically in our community was there wasn't many people in lending or in senior positions who can vouch for a deal to get approved that look like us. So that was kind of my charge and my responsibility, is that, hey, if I'm gonna get into this role, yes, I will help any small business. I love seeing people win, but intentionally making sure I support the minority women-owned businesses to give them access and give them a face and a voice they can feel comfortable with, to get them the resources they need to be successful.
And funding, basically.
And funding, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's very important. And I remember the first couple of times that I sat down with a small business owner, and the relief and the happiness that they get when they initially sit down with you and actually look at you in the eye and feel comfortable talking about their business, right? It's almost as if, like, hey, I know I'm asking for money, but tell me what I need to do in order for me to get that money. So a lot of hand-holding, a lot of advising, a lot of patience is required from this position. And I'm sure that's something that you harbor deep down. What does it mean to you to help a small business scale from a startup to maybe a position where they can hire at least a couple of employees? And I'm sure you've done that through your career. What kind of satisfaction do you get out of it?
Oh man, I've done several size deals, but the smallest ones to supporting a small business to get a $50,000 line of credit just so they can grow their business, scale their business is so empowering to me, because, as you mentioned, a lot of them don't know what they don't know, and a lot of times in my career I figured out that there's three types of people who don't get access to capital. Ones that just don't trust the system because of what they heard, what their family told them, friends told them. Number two, people just are unsure and don't know who to ask. And number three, people just don't know anything about it. And so getting the satisfaction of someone who has handed me an application, you give them the XYZ, they give you XYZ, you run it through the traps, get it underwritten, you get them approved. And like you said, they're so what? I'm approved?
Yeah.
It can be from a $5 million deal to a $5,000, $10,000 deal. It's just hearing that conversation that, oh, I didn't think I can even get approved for this.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing to me. So that's where I love seeing people win. That's where I love the challenge of getting them approved.
Yeah.
Because again, it's all about how do we position them to be successful, and getting access to capital is very important for businesses to be successful.
Small businesses.
Absolutely.
Have you seen changes in small businesses since the pandemic? And the reason I bring this up is because I recently had a conversation with a small business owner that the first couple of minutes, she was talking about how devastating it was for her business, right? So I didn't even have to ask, right? And I'm just like, hey, how's your business doing? Oh, I'm doing great, kind of sustaining my business. I've pivoted from, brick and mortar to online, but I was forced to do so, and it's because of, and you can hear the pain a little bit. Do you experience that as you're out there speaking to small businesses?
Absolutely. The pandemic was kind of an awakening for everyone, I believe, not only small businesses, but financial institutions. But I truly believe that a lot of businesses had to pivot. And one of the things about being an entrepreneur is they pivot all the time. And that's one thing that they do. The ones that learned how to pivot, they're thriving right now. They're doing really well. There's the ones that are maybe still challenging because when we think about it, it's only 3 years out of it. So they're starting to feel a little bit of, challenge because, hey, the incentives are not there as much as they were. They're not offering the PPP money, the EIDL money from the SBA. So those other resources that were available, some of these small businesses, they're not there. So now they kind of have to live on their own right now. So that is challenging for some businesses. But the ones that learned how to pivot during that time, use technology, hire the right people, maybe got rid of some of the wrong people, they're doing really well because now they're seeing that they can work with less now. And also, the cost right now is kind of impacting some businesses. So not only they having to pivot, but now they have to learn how to deal with the high cost of money, high costs of hiring employees, high costs of supplies, and widgets that they may have to buy that was maybe 40% less than what it was pre-pandemic. So, this is going to be an interesting time. I say 2023 to 2025. We kind of see how, we're talking about inflation, how that impacts businesses. But number two, how businesses really, find ways to really be strengthened through this process and continue to be resilient, which a lot of entrepreneurs are through this process. So there are some challenges, but I'm seeing a lot of upside for some of the entrepreneurs.
For some of the exactly. So some that can pivot, some that can learn from it, some that can shave off unnecessary expenses.
And I will say one thing is just, honestly, we talk about the minority business community, right? I think there's a lot of awareness now, right? And I think, financial institutions and, the Federal Reserve Bank and all those other organizations, they understood that there was a challenge. It was always a challenge, right? But now it was heightened. So I think there's a lot more awareness and people are a little bit more aware of, hey, how do I get access to capital? You hear this term everywhere. There's programs being created all over the country to try to help facilitate some of those opportunities. And so that's the positive thing I think that came out of that is now there's a little bit more awareness about the issues that's always been there. But now it's like, okay, how do we try to solve these problems?
Yes, and I think you see a lot of institutions coming in and try to help, particularly minority-owned small businesses.
Correct.
And you're right. This is something that kind of sprung after the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Or at least the buzz, the words are something that came after the fact. So you're totally right. Can we talk a little bit about the SBA?
Absolutely.
The SBA is something that is an intricate piece of some small business lending.
Yes.
And how would you advise? What kind of advice would you give to a small business owner that is trying to get more information about the SBA? Sure, they can take a look at the website, but do you think having a relationship with their banker is maybe the first couple of steps?
That's the first step. Your banker, or go to your credit union and say, hey, I heard about this SBA thing. Who do you know? Because not everybody in the bank or credit union is comfortable talking about SBA.
Yeah.
So if you bring it up, don't be alarmed if the person doesn't know anything about it. So ask maybe if they know someone who they have an SBA representative, or do they have a contact person or a contact resource. There's normally an SBA regional officer in every market that works with the banks or credit unions to kind of help them, give them guidance and give them information regarding what's going on. So yeah, SBA is a great product, but start with your bank or credit union as the first place to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Do your research. There's plenty of information on your phone, but I say start with your banker. And if they don't know, ask for their local SBA rep, and they should have that contact information readily available to be able to plug you in. And trust me, that SBA rep knows someone who, if that bank doesn't do them, hey, they know somebody who does. And absolutely.
And we've gotten a couple of leads that way as well.
Absolutely.
Businesses contact the SBA. SBA refer them to their preferred lenders.
Correct.
And then we've gotten some deals out of that.
But start with your financial institution first.
So it makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's a great tool. It's a great tool, although the process may feel a little challenged, right? Because of the paperwork that it requires. But I just encourage small businesses, don't be alarmed by that. Ask as many questions as you can. But it's a great tool to kind of help you get the capital that you need to be successful. And so just real quick about how the process works. The bank may look at your opportunity, may not feel 100% confident that we can loan it on our own book. And so we can partner with the SBA, or the SBA will guarantee a portion of that loan. And so the bank and the SBA will partner to be able to get that capital in the hands of small business. Now you're dealing with the government, right? So the government is going to require a lot more paperwork and information, and your firstborn maybe. I'm just joking. I'm joking, government. Don't get me. But those are some things that you have to be prepared for, right?
Yes.
And don't be challenged by the amount of documentation. So there are packagers, and your bank may work with a partner that help package your deal. They kind of help you get your documents in a row to be able to get access to capital. And so the government has, recently been reducing some fees and streamlining some of the processes to get access to capital to some small businesses. So because that came out of the pandemic, because they noticed, hey, there's a lot of businesses that can really benefit from the SBA. And but also I think they recognize that their process sometimes can be a little bit more strenuous than what it needs to be. Right. And so they're also looking at ways of how to streamline things and get things a little bit more efficient to get done as well. So everyone's learning, but that process, that product, there's several opportunities that I think businesses can take advantage of, because A, it helps the business get access to capital, B, it helps the bank get money out the door, and C, it helps everyone win. So the business gets the money, they're hopefully growing and expanding and hiring new people. The economy wins, the business wins, the neighborhood wins, and it's a great opportunity. Yeah. The community wins.
No, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. Okay. Well, just taking it back to what you said previously before we got into SBA discussion, absolutely. 2024 and 2025 would be a very tough year, as predicted by economists and everybody who knows the business inside out. What would you say businesses in general, we can talk about industry specific businesses, but I just wonder if there's anything that you can generalize and put out there so that businesses are smart as they conduct their day-to-day operation. Anything, any word when it comes to
I would say right now this would be a time to, I would say, clean house, right? It's like spring cleaning. Get your books in order, understand your financials, partner with a good accountant or CPA, and be ahead of the game, because there will be some turmoil. I can't guarantee it, but right. I feel like there's going to be something there, because interest rates are going to, I anticipate we're not going back to 3-4% rates, right? You might have some loans that you booked 5 years ago that might be ready for renewal in the next 5. And so you went from 4% money to maybe 8.5%, 9%, right? So your cash flow might be impacted by your renewing of your loan. So those are some things that you just kind of have to be prepared for as a business owner, to say, hey, okay, where am I at? Do I understand my books? Do I understand my financials? If I don't, who can help me prepare for that? I would say number B, now, while banks are looking to potentially lend money, partner, go have a conversation with your banking financial institution. Say, hey, this is where I'm thinking I might be in the next 2 or 3 years. I might be looking to expand. I might be looking to buy a building. I might be looking to purchase this new piece of equipment. Have those conversations now, so when you are ready to make this move, your financial institution is aware. They know what's going on, and now they probably gave you some steps to prepare for. Hey, provide me with X, Y, Z financials. Provide me with these projections. We are looking at this, or the rate might be that. So at least you can kind of put this in your little database and say, hey, okay, can I cash flow a $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million loan? I say right now it's time to clean your house. Prepare, get prepared. And then I would say, secondly, look at technology. How can you leverage, your technology to help you be more efficient? Is it by, cutting expenses some way? I mean, is there some ways you can, reduce office hours? Whatever it is, I would say look at your balance sheet, and see in your P&Ls and say, hey, what are some ways that I can make more money and be more efficient? What are some ways where I can cut expenses to be prepared for this, whatever is unforeseen, we don't know. So having those conversations with your internal team, I think, is very important right now, because the next, like we talked about, 2 or 3 years is going to be really interesting. And you want to be prepared for it as much as you can. We can't predict. We can't project a pandemic, right? But we know that we can project the next 2 or 3 years where we see ourselves as a company and where we want to go.
Yeah, you see that in the technology space as well. Raising capital has been absolutely difficult for small tech startups or even mid-sized companies that have been in existence for a certain period of time. People are really down in how much they give because of interest rates, because of inflation. So you're right about that. I think in the next couple of years it will be interesting for us to see, but also it's solid advice that cleaning your house is quite important. Getting your books in order is quite important. So having a discussion with your small business banker is quite important. Seeing the projections that are going to come, and the technology piece, as you advised, is something that small businesses need to take a look into. Do you consider technology in the space of marketing as well, as it comes to social media promotion?
Absolutely. Wherever lane you feel you can get the most bang for your buck, leveraging technology, obviously, it's not going away. You got AI and everything else that's taking over. So see how that can benefit you as a small business. And because if one shape, one way or the other, it's going to impact you, however you like it or not. So how do you make it be a benefit rather than a liability to you? So I would say technology will be very important in any type of business that you're in. It's going to be around, and find a way to make it work for you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So you said something that was very interesting initially when we started this conversation, which was, I created my job description to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So you wrote out your business plan, kind of took a look at what you did in the past, projected your future almost, and you kind of ran it through a business mentality. Is it safe to say you ran it through a business mentality?
Absolutely.
How can businesses do the same when it comes to projecting their future or their business's future?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because I didn't think of it like that, but you're right. I just really try to identify where are some gaps, where do I see the most value I can bring to an organization. I think that's what entrepreneurs do, is they sell value, right? They sell what is it that I can offer this client, or either it's an individual or business organization, to add value to their bottom line, to add value to their business model. So when I created my job description, I just didn't want to be another lender, because there's a lender on every corner, right? But what are banks lacking? And so one of the things I noticed was, I've always been forward thinking. So I always felt like the small to medium sized businesses has always been underlooked. And what I mean by size is anybody whose gross annual revenues are $10 million or less. I mean, SBA size is 500 employees, which I don't know any small business that has 500 employees. Or whatever. I'm not questioning the government at all. But what I'm saying is, you make less than $10 million and less, and that's a wide gap. That's $1 to $10 million. But if you look at it, a lot of institutions, they go after those higher end businesses. And I always feel like, hey, if I can help a business go from 1 million to 5 to 10, I've grown a business, right? Or if I can help a business go from 500,000 to a million to 200 to 2.5 million, that's a success. That's a success. And so I said, how do I figure out a way to target a lower level market that can be acceptable, that they'll be receptive to, or maybe a higher interest rate, because that might be they might need a $50,000 loan, $200,000 loan. Not saying banks will do it, but the cost of money to do a $100,000 loan to a $5 million, $10 million loan is the same. And so a lot of institutions go after the larger deals. That's just what it is. And it's very profitable and it makes sense. But I said, how do I make it make sense to any organization that I bring to tap into some underserved, undermarket, underutilized opportunities and help grow that business? So in the next 3 to 5 years, they are one of your, or, you know, moving up into your top clients. And then now you've seen growth, because not only they will want to be loyal to you because you gave them the opportunity that no one else would have, but number two, they see the benefit of, hey, this banker or bank took a chance on me. So when I'm ready to do this $20 million thing, they're the first ones who gave me the opportunity. I'm giving them the first shot before now all the banks are calling me, right? And so that was something that I took into my consideration, say, how do I add value to a lower mid-range, underserved market? But number two, as I mentioned, there wasn't anybody who looked like, not many people that looked like me in the space. And so I felt like there was an opportunity as well to say, hey, okay, well, how do I get in it and create some substance? And then bring in other people who can continue to add value to this market. And so hopefully we talk about this wealth gap and everything like that. And we know small business is the lifeline and the bloodline of generating wealth, right? How do we create other lenders and other people who look like the community that reflect to be able to help carry on this message and help more small businesses? So I was always looking forward, not just in the immediate. I was like, hey, how do I do this thing now and make it attractive to other people to get into the space and bring other people on? And so that's kind of the reason why I wrote that out, to grow my own business within my own industry, if that makes sense.
But what do you think is our role here to make sure that we close that gap as small business lenders?
Yeah, no, I think our role is, I say it's our role, it's our responsibility, right? Because we are the gatekeepers, right? And one person getting money and a person not getting money, right? And one person being able to buy that commercial property to one person not being able to grow that commercial property. So I think our responsibility is to be that team member, right? And any small business entrepreneur, you should have your team. You have your attorney, you have your insurance agent. I say you definitely have your banker, right? And so we should be a part of, and I'm sure there's other people out there, but I think we should be a part of that team because, hey, your insurance agent gonna make sure you're getting the good rates, gonna make sure your property and your business is secured. Your attorney gonna make sure your contracts is right, your business is put together properly and legally binding. And your banker is gonna help you not only just do loans, but get you other products and services to cover your money, make sure your products and service, your money is safe through treasury management type services, and also providing guidance. So when you are looking to make a transition, acquisition, your banker should be the first person, even before you make the move. If you're just thinking of it, talk to your banker, because I think they can maybe identify, hey, I know a person who's selling a property. You might want to talk to them. Hey, we got this business, there's an opportunity, down the line, down the street that I'm here is going on foreclosure. You might want to talk to so-and-so and, there you go. Number B, we might say, hey, all right, well, this sounds like a good idea, but we just, had another situation where this didn't work out well. Maybe I wouldn't do X, but maybe you do Y. And have you thought about this? And that should be more of an advocated team. And number C, we can say, hey, this is going to cost you. This is what you need. This is how you get access to this money. So now we're offering support services to be able to get you what you need. But also, if you don't have an attorney, you have an insurance agent, ask your lender, ask your banker.
Mm-hmm.
They have people who bank with them. We call them our COIs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can also provide you resources to help you be safe and secure and make sure your business is covered. So we have a responsibility to make sure the relationship, make sure the business owner is successful. Not saying that we're Superman and we can do it all, but I think there's a lot of value that is lost, and people think of a banker as being more transactional, and it should be more relationship. So when you talk about, what's our role is to be a part of that team, and is to be a relationship in this business, to make sure our clients are being successful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. No, that's something that I strive to do, and of course, with the COIs that you've mentioned, we do have access to those people. We go to networking events in order for us to foster those great relationships. We know who's the best accountant based on your business portfolio and who we should refer you to. So
we see them. We get the financials in, right?
Yes.
We ask for your personal tax returns and your business tax return, and we like, oh, this business does really well with handling these businesses, right? We like, oh, hey, I'm gonna put them on our list. I may call the accountant like, hey, you work with so-and-so business. I like the way you do your financials. Your customer's doing really well. Hey, can we go to lunch?
Right.
We go to lunch, we meet them, and of course, they want to make sure their client's taken care of. Hell, they may need a loan, right? So now we're building a relationship with your accountant based off of the financials they put together. But also, one of the things that we also try to challenge accountants too is say, hey, set your business up for success. So making sure, and that's why I love working with accountants that I work with, because they're not just order takers. They don't just, you want to write a loss off today and okay, well, we're going to write the loss off. Okay, good. But then you come to me and need a loan and your net income is negative, and there's no income and there's nothing I can add back to show that you're cash flowing this loan. And I'm calling your accountant like, what's going on? And they're like, well, I mean, they wanted a loss. I'm like, well, you're not talking to them about they're looking to expand in the next few years, or how you can help their business grow. So those are some conversations that your banker should be having with sometimes your accountants to tee you up for success. Because as a business owner, you want to pay less taxes. Got it. I understand it. But when you need capital, we got to show that you can cash flow our loan. And we don't all the time get that information back to say, hey, this is, we can give you the loan, but unfortunately, you're not showing that you can cash flow this request. And so that's been a constant challenge that I see, that a lot of times, businesses may not be getting the right education through their accountings and whatever. And so those are some relationships that need to continue to be built. So that's why I like working with the people I work with, because they're coaching the small business to make sure, hey, is there anything that you're looking to do in the next 3 to 5 years? Got it. All right, so we need to act accordingly with your preparing for your tax returns, so you can be prepared for getting that capital when you need it.
Right. You see, sometimes, Theodis, this is where you show your experience, because these are the conversations that I do have with small business owners, but I never thought to have this conversation with my COS accountants. But that's very important.
That's very important.
Because, I mean, I've sat down with a ton of small business owners that wanted to get access to capital. However, they're in the same boat that you're talking about right now, which is they did write off a lot.
Yeah.
And it just puts them in a position where they can't cash flow. And they're trying to compensate that through, cash capital injection. But in our underwriting standards, that does not work.
No.
Right? The business needs to be able to take on the debt that you're asking for.
Absolutely.
See, I took a golden nugget right there for myself to take for small business owners, or my COIs rather, on the accountant side.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your role for Urban Financial Services Coalition, Greater Kansas City.
Yes.
That's one of the things that you introduced me to. It has opened up a lot of doors. I've met with a ton of lenders, insurance agents, accountants, commercial real estate agents. I mean, a plethora of experts that are within that umbrella.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what that organization is. How did you get involved? And, all that.
Man, how I got involved was I told my mother I wanted to be on a board. And she was like, what? Like, you're not, and this was 12, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. She was like, I mean, you got to have some experience to be on somebody's board. I'm like, I'm going to be on somebody's board, because a mentor told me you need to start working your way to get on the board. Got it. And so somehow she came across this organization because I've always been involved with education and educating my community, things like that, through like Money Smart programs in school. But anyway, they heard it's like, okay, this is what we do. We educate our communities. Our mission is to see more senior leaders of financial leaders in the financial industry and C-suite and leadership positions. And so I gravitated to that organization and haven't left since. And so for people who may not know about us, Urban Financial Services Coalition will be celebrating 50 years in Kansas City, April 11th and 12th in 2024. So you just kind of think about that. A minority organization that's been around for 50 years is pretty impressive. And so ultimately we give out scholarships, we do professional development, we do career development, and also we partner with various organizations like the Federal Reserve Bank to help us get access to information, resources, and all the sort. So it's a great organization. We are always empowering our community. That's one of our missions. And we are continuing to serve our community. And so I will be the incoming national president of Urban Financial Services in 2024.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Very excited about that big role. But our goal is truly to really focus on PPP, right? PPP was an interesting time, a couple of years ago. But we're going to focus on our people, which includes a pipeline, meaning how do we get more manuals into the financial service industry to be next level leaders in your organizations that we all may work within. How do we get the right people within the organization to continue to boost and bolster the mission of the organization? We're going to talk about programs, right? How do we continue to impact our communities through our programs, through our mentorship program? We do Toastmasters. We have a Mark I program where we deal with young professionals who are in high school or college and about to enter the professional arena. And we also talk about our ICCE, which we'll talk about that, which is our inclusive culture competency experience, which we talk about biases and diversity in our industry and how do we be better partners within the community. But then lastly, we're going to talk about partnerships. And I truly feel, how do we partner better? Like, we can only do so much. We got 24 hours a day. We got our own jobs. We got our kids. We got responsibilities. We got running side businesses, whatever. And we're trying to do all of that plus our mission and all of that. But I come to find out we need to be better at partnering. So partnering with colleges and universities to get that pipeline of leaders and students inside the financial service industry, not at low level, but commercial lending and leadership programs, which low level is great. That's where I started. Partnering with the Federal Reserve Bank, whatever initiatives they have going on nationwide, how do we partner to support them, whatever their missions are? And anybody else who have a mission out there to, there's a gentleman named Jasper Smith who is in our Bay Area who is trying to break generational wealth through financial advising. We're going to work with him to say, hey, your mission is to educate 1 million people. Let's do it. How do we help you do that? And so giving them the platform to do it. So our goal is to partner with the best of the best and connect our resources to people who can help us carry out our mission and change the narrative that, we are here to support and serve. And there are some really great individuals in the financial service industry, unsung heroes, I call them, who are doing the work every day, like Amanuel and myself, helping people win. And so we're so excited about that. But going back to our 50, just real quick, we got the Federal Reserve Bank president, Dr. Bostic, the Federal Bank Reserve president in Atlanta, will be one of our keynote speakers. So we got a great dynamic agenda. So go to our website, listen to what's going on. Love to have you register. Very affordable. I think it's like $199 for 2 days in a soiree where you get to network here in Kansas City with people flying in all over the country. So we're very excited about that.
Beautiful. Where is that and when?
It's going to be in Kansas City, Missouri, at the Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City. It's going to be hosting April 11th and 12th, 2024.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, this definitely will get out there for people that want to register and
absolutely
take part in what has been this great organization that you and I are to some extent part of, and congratulations again on
Appreciate it. Very
taking in
excited.
that position.
Very
So with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is your future goal? I know you touched on it to some extent, but where do you want to see this organization go to in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, and how can partners reach out to you to discuss more about the growth and the plan and the vision that you have in place?
Absolutely. Appreciate that question. So the goal of this organization is to, just like I told entrepreneurs, to clean house. We're going to clean house the first year. We're going to look at where we can be more lean. What are some ways, where do we project ourselves in the next 3 to 5 years? How do we get the right talent in the room to carry out our mission? But the next 2 or 3 years after that, our goal is to really be more effective. So partner with organizations. I say, I want to educate 1 million people about financial education, the benefits of it. But also, I think we think about people in banks and institutions, financial institutions, but we want to expand more into people who are in the financial service industry. So there's accountants, right? There is a CFO out there that works for Walmart, right? And they have a finance department in Walmart. We have Hallmark, right, who is a greeting card organization, but they have a finance department within that. So how do we not only be considered as a financial institution organization, we are financial services. So we want to broaden out to all lines of business who work within the financial industry to be able to be a supportive and say, hey, there's people who can support you in your growth, who can help you attract the right talent, who can help you, if you have some personal mission to empower and educate the schools, hey, let us help you do that. You're not alone, and we're here to support. So that's one of my initiatives, is to expand our message outside of the banking industry and get into the corporate America to let people know, hey, we're here to support. Second thing is entrepreneurism. I think entrepreneurs need to see people like us to support them. And if we can get more people in position, commercial lenders, chief credit officers, CEOs involved in our organization to support entrepreneurs, that's my goal, is because, hey, how do we get them access to capital, access to information, resources? So I think that's very important, to really tap into the entrepreneur aspect of our country through the financial service industry. And I would say, lastly, we have to really be more involved in DC, right? So we have counterparts and contacts in DC. How do we get to the table to encourage people to be, states to mandate financial education in their schools, right? How do we get people to be more active, involved politically, to say, hey, these laws don't make sense. I'm not a political person, but I'm sure there's people there who can help us move some agendas, or we can help them move their agenda through education and outreach. And so I think, instead of saying, hey, the grassroots things is great, but for us, Urban Financial Services, an organization that's been around for the 50 years, we need to take it a step further and be a little bit more engaged in DC to kind of help people who are there to support our mission. How do we support them and partner with them to make impact and make things happen?
Right. At least get the concerns and also needs heard. Right.
Absolutely.
I would imagine that's a good start.
Absolutely.
And then if you can change some laws and make it work in your favor, it would be the next step to follow, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Another thing that you touched on is the ICCE.
Yes.
I was part of the last cohort. Participated one class, and I thought it was very revigorating. Is the word that comes to mind. People were there in that room, were engaged, absolutely learning from one another, from each other's background. It was just one of those rooms that everybody needs to see and wants to be part of, in my opinion, because it just opens your eyes to possibilities, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that initiative.
Yeah, so that was a initiative that was a brainchild of mine that came out of the pandemic, where, here in Kansas City, access to capital was a challenge, getting PPP funds out the door. And so through a series of, discussions with our civic leaders and the Kansas City Chamber and other powerful people, identify there's an issue because there's not enough PPP funding that was going to not only small businesses but minority businesses. And so what came out of that discussion was, what are some things that we can do better as leaders? And so I was, through Urban Financial Services and through my restless brain, like, how do I do this? And so one of the things I figured out was understanding the biases within our industry. We all have them. Hell, I have them, right? But we know that there's been issues and biases in the financial service industry where people are not getting access to capital. So I thought about what happens if we just create a safe place where banks, credit unions, financial professionals can speak candidly about biases, challenges, various topics. And we were able to do that. We talked about, ways through appraisal, right? There's some appraisal challenges. We had appraisers in the room talking about things that they see and how they can do things better. We had senior officers, CEOs, senior vice presidents in the room talking about and understanding from their own experiences what they seen and what they have maybe did or didn't do when they were faced with adversity, and learning how to cope with that and how to do that better the next time it comes about. And so what came about of that inclusive culture competency experience, it wasn't a training, because I can't train someone for 3 hours talking about this. It was really, we're trying to change the experience about, for the long term, what can we do better in our industry to help be better stewards of our community. And if we are in a position to advocate for our community or for someone who does not fall within our community, what are some tools and resources we can use to be able to help or be able to support or acknowledge when biases are happening? And so it was a great experience. I had senior CEOs, chief credit officers, I had low-level managers, I was facilitating, I had a college student.
Yeah.
We had partnerships with UMKC, the Chamber, entrepreneurs who let us use their space to host these sessions. It was a really great experience. And so where our goal is, and which with the help of hopefully Amanuel, is we want to take this on a national level and have it not only have in-person events where we'll come to a place near you to have these events if you want us, but we also want to have it online so all markets can participate in these conversations. And again, this is no place where people will be judged. There's no judging. There's no demeaning one another's thoughts. It's really having a series of conversations about how we can be better, our personal experiences, which ultimately truly impacts how we go about business today, and how do we uncover some challenges that we may have that's impacting us, to preventing us from moving forward. And so it's an exciting time. It's a great discussion, and honestly, it was really well received. We got some support through the Kaufman Foundation, which is another partner in this initiative, and we want to continue to move this conversation forward, because out of that, new jobs came in place. People were moved in new positions. People started creating new loan programs and projects. There's been more tracking about what's going on in the urban core. But also the Kansas City Chamber and other partners are now continually having these conversations within their own organizations. And so that wasn't happening pre-pandemic, right? So that, I think, again, that's something that's been very beneficial out of the pandemic. Again, people are now comfortable having those conversations about biases and diversity and race and lack of, which I think is very important to you got to break things down to move forward.
No, absolutely. Getting uncomfortable with certain conversations, certain topics, and discussing those through with an open heart, in my opinion, and also with good intentions, actually breaks barriers.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I saw in that room. And a lot of CEOs won't really get the opportunity to have this kind of a discussion with a college student, unless it's in a family event or something, right? I mean, from a different background.
From a totally different background.
Right, and they're learning, everybody was engaged and they were interested. And I think, in my opinion, Theodis, this should be not necessarily mandated, but encouraged by financial institutions or any other institution to have, to handpick an individual who's lucky to be part of that room. Because it is a networking event. Yep. You get to, like you said, a lot of people have gotten job offers from that room. Yeah. And it's not a one-stop shop. Right. It's a course, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Absolutely.
So you get to build bonds there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had the same people kind of come back, and different people came and was able to come. And so, yeah, people who have been in the same room maybe at one point in time never had a conversation about their childhood and how it impacts them, or what are some things that they've experienced in their life, to how, like, oh, I didn't even recognize that was a thing. There was a situation where a CEO shared some information what happened at a holiday party, and he said, wow, if I would have thought differently, I should have maybe did this. Or I had another CEO in that room who was heard that situation and said, you know what, this is what I would have done if I was in that room. So again, you're hearing CEOs talk about situations that they're not talking about these in their boardrooms and their discussion. They're talking about budgets and expenses and strategy, and how do we grow this organization, or what do we need to do to forecast the next 3 or 4 years. They're not talking about how do we improve our talent pipeline, or are we missing the ball with some of our talent, or and we probably should have acted differently during this networking event that we hosted with another organization, because maybe we were a little off-putting, because maybe we were unintentionally not knowing that we were off-putting, right? And so it was just those conversations, which I was like, wow. I mean, that wasn't my intent. My intent was just to have candid conversations, but it turned into a lot much more than that.
Bigger than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have the next cohort coming up soon?
We're gonna be kicking off in 2024. I want to say in the first quarter we want to put something out, so be on the lookout for that. In combination with our 50th anniversary through Urban Financial Services. So man, we're very excited about 2024. It's gonna be busy, but it's gonna be fun.
Busy year coming up for us.
Absolutely.
Well, any other thing that we can touch on? I think we've touched on the key important things: business banking to small business. Business bankers in relation to small businesses, the organizations that you're a part of. Are there any nuggets that you would want to leave us before we wrap this up? Anything that you'd like to say? And of course, finally, I'll ask you, how can people reach you? One way to do that is through LinkedIn. I know that, but I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah. No, I would say, first of all, I appreciate this. This is really fun. This is a great conversation. But I would say if anybody will take one thing away, I would say do exactly what Amanuel did. He seen somebody, didn't know who this person was, didn't know what was going on. He reached out and made a connection, right? Networking is so powerful. I've got into some rooms that I had no idea I was going to get in, or had no reason to be in there, but just simply opening my mouth, I'm in the room, right? I'm in the conversation. But also, if you're the person who someone's reached out to, don't blow that person off, right? Because you never know how that person might impact your life. So just always be open to new people, networking, connecting. There's a wealth of talent out here, specifically in Kansas City. And so we're very excited about what's going on. But network with find a purpose when you're networking. That's very important to what you do. I would say number 2, just be okay with being uncomfortable, right? Be comfortable being uncomfortable through the ICCE programs, me taking a national program, to going into lending, and you didn't have the vast experience in being involved in, taking a leap on a new job opportunity, reaching somebody, dealing with another industry, organization, someone who is a little bit more diverse than you are. Be okay with that and learn and be open to ideas and challenges, because you just never know that change is good and change is different. And so be open to that. And I would say the last thing I would say is, man, just continue to think entrepreneurialistic. You may be a banker or aspiring to be a banker, or you maybe feel like you've been in your field for 15 years or whatever and not moving anywhere. Continue to think ways of how you can change. Don't go to work. Don't run your business as just another business. Don't run your nonprofit just as a nonprofit. Really think entrepreneurialistic, because you're looking to solve problems, and that's the best way to continue to keep your vibe going and learning new and meeting new people. And so entrepreneurs, man, I hands down, I enjoy working with them. They inspire me every day because I have the job. I have the fortune of having a job and I pay my bills right, and I can get a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. Entrepreneurs are feeding families. They're feeding themselves. They putting it all on the line, and I commend them for that. And so, so us people who are working in the industry where we do have a paycheck every 2 weeks, we can learn a lot from them. And so I take that to say we need to take that portion of our vision, be more entrepreneurialistic, find new opportunities, how to solve problems. And I think we can move forward from a drastic 3 years that we dealt with to a more prosperous, 2024, 2025, 2026 and beyond.
Yes.
And so I encourage everybody to think that way.
To think that way. Absolutely. Great. How can people reach you?
Reach me on LinkedIn. That's about as far as I've gotten. I am going to be. A man's going to challenge me to be on Instagram a little bit more. I do need to be a little bit more social media active, but LinkedIn is where I'm at. But I think that I love to connect with people. Love having these conversations. Love to tell them more about Urban Financial Services Coalition and what we do. And if there's any students, aspiring people want to be in banking, man, reach out to me. This is what I do. Love to connect. And love to support. I'm a dream supporter, I say. So beautiful. I love supporting people's dreams.
Yes. Well, Theodis, thanks for being my mentor. Thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it. Encouraging me to follow dreams, right?
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
dreams. And your mentorship has meant a lot to me. And there are times where I picked up the phone and called you because I was not exactly sure what to say on an interview. And the guidance and the direction you gave me has led me to a position where I found myself in. And all I'm saying is thank you.